Hey everyone, it's LS, and this is going to be the patch 10.14 notes rundown. This patch is a little bit bigger than previous patches, although there's no new champions or anything like that coming out. Lilia is going to be in a future patch. One of the other things about this is that this is the big skin line patch that I think a lot of people have been waiting for, and then Conqueror Clash is coming out later this weekend, so you could check out patreon.com/L6YZ9. Okay, I'm done selling out. Let's get into the patch notes. Buffs are going to be Alistar, Karthus, Kha'Zix, Riven, Sejuani, Zed, Ezreal, Pike, Trundle, Varus, Volibear, and Wukong for the nerfs, and then obviously lots of skins. The Zoe Prestige Edition skin is the one that I am most interested in seeing what the final artwork was on it. Systems, Ghost, and Predator. Okay, let's get into it. Alistar, Q cooldown decrease, Q pulverize. 17 to 13 seconds to 15 to 11 seconds. This is pretty big for Alistar. Is it what is gating him from coming back into the meta? No, I don't think so. He has been picked sometimes, in LCK especially. I don't think that he's a champion that can't be picked, but I think that it's more so going to be player preference and if really some sort of stars align where the opponents are prone to him, because otherwise he's not a champion that realistically should be able to come in blind. It doesn't mean that people won't pick him blind, but there's a lot of other supports in the meta right now that are just able to achieve what he does, but better. So unless you have the black Alistar skin and you're really just trying to show off or something, I still think that you should keep this cow on the farm. Even though this is quite a sizable buff for his pulverize, I do think it is very, very good. But Alistar is going to need some help in other areas in order to become competitively viable, unless as a counter pick, in which case I think that he already is viable. Ezreal, E cooldown increase, E arcane shift, cooldown 25 to 13 seconds, or 28 to 16 seconds. This is really big, and I think it's a very nice change to Ezreal. So obviously, if you're still really good at him, and you're good at positioning with, utilizing his passive and everything like that, the arcane shift change is not going to completely gut him. It's going to make him a lot more vulnerable in the early and mid-game stages, where obviously the higher cooldown numbers are still going to hit him a little bit more before his items start coming in, access to more CDR, access to more attack speed and other things that can really just help him get the arcane shift back up. And so in that regard, I think it's going to be a sizable nerf, and that's very big for Third Dragon. If you guys don't follow Elite Play MMR or you don't follow Pro MMR, typically Third Dragon comes in around 17 to 19 minutes. That's the time where Ezreal traditionally aims to have Mirror Mana completed, and that's where his really big spike comes online. Obviously, the Arcane Shift, his levels are not going to be high enough there. He's not going to have the excess cooldown reduction from other items at that point, and so this will actually take him down a notch at even that Third Dragon timing that can really make or break some Ezreals that already sometimes even have problems against it. And so I think that all things considered, it's a very, very big nerf, because traditionally you need him to come online in mid-game, and this is going to hit that. So I think that it's still fine. Ezreal's still going to be a good champion. People might overreact to this, but it's not the end of the world. Karthus, I have no idea what is going on here, and it really makes no sense to me. Now, if you guys saw one of my last patch notes rundown, I talked about AP Pogma, and I talked about Disco Nunu coming into mid and top lane because the ratio was just bonkers, and if you went into Nunu's actual kit, the amplified ratio and everything, his sustain, his control, he's basically like a tank version of Kiana that just gets to run everywhere and really be a nuisance. He functions on low economy, but he's extremely oppressive while he's ahead. And so that change sort of just struck me as really weird when I was doing that rundown. Well, Karthus obviously strikes me basically in the same ballpark. So his health goes up by basically an auto attack. His movement speed is given back to him. So they give him back the 10 MS, which is the magical boots. Q lay waste, damage 45 to 125 plus 0.3 ability power to 50 to 130 plus 0.35 ability power. So they're giving him back the lay waste damage that he used to have on champions, and they're giving him a ability power ratio to boot. So his ganks in his mid game and his late game are way stronger now, and it really can't be understated. Damage reduction to monsters 0 to 15%. It was supposed to be 20%, but they actually lowered it to 15%, which means that this threshold is more obtainable for Karthus to go back to his old damage to monsters that he just had in the previous patch. And so this is so insane to me, because if you're good at Karthus, good at kiting the camps. If you're good at using Defile while kiting the camps, you're going to still remain healthy. You're still going to clear faster than other champions in the game. And this is just all around a buff to Jungle Karthus. This cannot be understated that it is a buff to Jungle Karthus. It is a nerf to Jungle Karthuses that are bad with Lay Waste, they're bad with Defile, they're bad at kiting camps, they're not very efficient at farming, they try to gank too much, etc. In that regard, it will be a nerf, but for Elite and Pro play, it's going to be a really big buff, and Karthus probably going to remain king of the jungle for people that actually want to utilize him in that way. Speaking of kings of the jungle, we can talk about the bugs of the jungle. Isolated target bonus damage increase, Q taste their fear, 100% to 120%. Kha'Zix still has too many things that are gating him into coming back into competitive play or high MMR play and whatnot, and that's mostly that players... So Kha'Zix is a unique champion where if he comes back, even if... So let's say that Kha'Zix gets a buff and he comes back into the meta, he might exist for 1 to 2 months while people get readjusted to playing against him, and then he will fall by the wayside again. And so whenever champions that have not been in the meta for a really long time make a resurgence, sometimes it's not actually just the buff that's helping them jump back into the meta. It can also be the fact that people have forgotten how to play against the champion. So Kha'Zix, at a certain point, struggles in the mid and later state. Well, he also struggles in the early stages of the game because he can't farm as efficiently as other junglers, but also Kha'Zix is sort of high economy, which is a difficult thing to fit inside of the meta, which means that he can only come in traditionally as a counterpick jungler, but Kha'Zix also needs you to be prone to him. He needs to be able to get in, get out. He needs to have reliable access to the enemy team composition. And so you're thinking of basically a jungler that either only comes in on B4, B5, which stands for blue side 4th and 5th pick, or red 3, red 4, red 5, so red side 3rd, 4th, and 5th pick. In competitive, obviously in solo queue, you can pick Kha'Zix basically whenever you want. You're going to manage to get fed, you're going to farm 3 camps and get a gank off, so everything's fine there. But the champion does still have problems, and it's very hard for him to actually play versus coordinated players, and it's hard for him to keep up with other junglers. So the isolated target bonus damage is really good, but he's still having other issues that really can't be shored up. Another thing that I suppose did hit him inside of solo queue was also just the change to runes and some items over time. He obviously is really good with like the lethality items, but if you look at like the 80 carries that have been present, he's very weak against the majority of them. He's bad against Senna, he's bad against Aphelios, he's bad against Ezreal. There's so many things that are just causing him issues. The other supports that have been coming into the meta, he's very prone against. The mid laners that are in the meta, he's very weak against. He's just having a very hard time achieving what he wants to, and that's even before getting into like tops and junglers. Pike. So magic resistance growth is down, armor growth is also down, bone skewer costs 70 to 50 to 70 mana, cooldown 12 to 8 seconds to 10 to 8 seconds, base damage 75 to 275 to 85 to 285. So they're giving Pike more damage, but obviously they're making him a lot squishier, and I think this is really good. This is good for support Pike. It's definitely a nerf for mid lane Pike. The mid lane Pikes that basically give up their entire wave and just permanently roam. The thing that I'm looking at here is that his old rank 3 is now his new rank 1, which maybe means that you can actually allocate points into other abilities first. And so that would perhaps be something that he can get away with at this point, because you just let this sit. Even though you're getting extra base damage on the Q, I don't really know if you necessarily need to. Probably still max Q, actually. Ghostwater Dive, it's a really cool name of an ability. 42, 60% bonus movement speed to 40% at all ranks. That's a very big nerf. E Phantom Undertow, 95 to 215 to 105 to 225. So that's actually getting quite a lot of extra base damage. And so Pike is getting more damage, so he's becoming higher risk, higher reward, and I really like that they're keeping that theme of the champion, and I really like that these changes are actually happening. I think these are very balanced. Riven. Passive bonus damage increase. This is good. Passive Runic Blade, 25% to 50% total AD, levels 1 to 18, to 30 to 60% total attack damage, levels 1 to 18. Lifesteal and critical strikes also apply to this damage. This is really good for Riven. I think that Riven is situationally very, very good, even in elite and pro level play. and I think that she actually is viable. The problem is that much like Vel'Koz or Xerath or something like that, the amount of time that it requires to pilot her at that level and dump into the champion is often far more than what high MMR solo queue players or professional players are going to be willing to dump into her. And if you're not playing her at that level, then she is going to end up being a burden to the team for the most part. And so in that regard, she's in a very weird spot where I think that she's pretty near balanced for pro play and super high MMR, but she's not quote-unquote balanced for mid MMR or low MMR, and there's probably people that feel bad about that because you have to be able to do everything that Riven can do in order to make her that level. Sejuani, E base damage increased, frost cooldown on stun enemy champions decreased and constant at all ranks. E permafrost, base damage 40 to 240 to 55 to 255. Frost cooldown stun enemy champions cannot gain frost for 10 to 8 seconds, scaling to levels 1 to 14. Stun enemy champions cannot gain frost for 8 seconds, levels 1 to 18. So this is very big, where she's getting the old final cooldown that she got at 14 now at level 1, which is really big. But this doesn't really play a part except in mid-game, where maybe third dragon fight or fourth dragon fight contest, that could probably end up happening, because otherwise this cooldown is still so heavy that it's not likely to play a part in early ganks or early 2v2s. Early skirmishes, even around Herald, are probably not going to be extended enough. So the damage is nice. The frost cooldown, I mean, this just looks like it's sort of a placebo that will play a part in late game. But if you're going late game at that point, you're probably already in a fine enough position. And also, if you were going late game at that point, then you already had the old cooldown. So this just looks complete placebo. Trundle, W bonus attack speed decreased early. Frozen Domain. So Trundle's been getting hit a lot lately. Bonus attack speed 30 to 100% to 20 to 100%. And this obviously impacts him a little bit because he doesn't get access to these later points until way later on inside of the game. So it's definitely a pretty balanced touch on Trundle. I like that they're being very reserved with that because I personally think the champion is very bad. Varus, Q maximum bonus damage ratio now scales. E base damage decreased early. Q piercing arrow. 100% total AD to 125 to 145% total attack damage. Minimum damage is always 66% of the max damage. And E hail of arrow 70 to 210 to 50 to 210. So they're taking a lot of power away from Varus, and this will definitely help stifle his early laning phase and his bullying. Also, in mid and late game, you're essentially getting several hundred EHP granted to several targets that would have otherwise been getting hit by arrows. Do I think that this will remove Varus from the meta? No, I don't think so. Because Varus, I mean, if he gets an advantage, he's still going to be really oppressive. He's still going to have his wave clear. He's still going to have the ability to be very good versus very specific team compositions. He's very powerful in the fact that he can be a flex, because obviously attack speed Varus is pretty much unaffected by these changes, almost for the most part. So attack speed Varus is still fine, and given that he can come in as a blind pickable champion, and then he can alternate into lethality poke, or he can go into attack speed Varus, makes him super, super good. I think this is a very balanced nerf that Riot's doing on him. Volibear, base attack speed decreased, W heal now halved when targeting monsters. So attack speed is down by a little bit, okay. W frenzied maul, wounded enemy heal, reduced by 50% on minions, reduced by 50% on minions and monsters. This is really, really nice to see, because I was very worried that Riot was just going to set him up for failure. No pun intended there, but actually I kind of did, because Set is one of those weird champions where he's obviously struggling a lot right now inside of solo queue. He is a champion that I've been very vocal about, even when he was released, that he's not really as good as people think that he is. He's finding a lot of success because of the phase rest, Nimbus Cloak. He's getting a lot of aid from runes, and the fact that he is able to go into the support role. Set otherwise has a lot of weaknesses that just isn't getting abused, and obviously because of his class, he feels very oppressive at low, mid, and high MMR when his numbers are just going to be very high. But I think a lot of it has to do with people just getting adjusted to playing against him, spacing against him inside of lane, and then also just picking the right kind of champions against him. And I was very worried because I'm of the same exact school of thought about Volibear. He's having a lot more success in jungle. I think his best role is probably support, as weird as that sounds, but top lane is definitely by far going to just have a lot of weaknesses. Now, Volibear does get some aid in the sense that he is able to be a triple flex, which Set sort of was too, or quadriflex, well, no. Volibear can't quadriflex, but Set could quadriflex in theory. They both still suffer from the same problems, though. They're from the same family tree of Set, Olaf, and Volibear, and then Vi, I guess you lump in there in the same exact category, but we don't really talk about that. And so the sustain inside of the jungle is not really a big deal because Volibear eventually is just super healthy inside of the jungle anyway. So I like the change. They're being very reserved, and I like that. They're giving people more time to figure out how to abuse him. Wukong. Knockup duration decrease. Knockup duration 0.75 to 0.6. This is obviously a fine, welcome nerf. Wukong has been popping up a little bit more lately. I personally do not think that he's super imbalanced. He takes on some sort of a role that feels like Aurelia meets Malphite. That's essentially what I'm feeling, and I like that such a champion like this ends up existing. So I'm not against this kind of a nerf at all. I think this is fine. Zed, W missile speed increased, cooldown decreased early. Living Shadow, missile speed 1750 to 2500, cooldown 22 to 14 to 20 to 14. So Zed normally doesn't get access to CDR on his W until way later on, so getting 2 seconds shaved off it is really nice, as well as the missile speed being increased. He still suffers from the fact that he has clear counterplay, given the way that he has to commit and when he can actually come in. He's still a counter-pick champion. You don't want to blind him, even though he is arguably more blindable than some of the other AD assassins in mid lane, given the way that he's allowed to farm, unless you're referring to something like Talon, who can sort of like cheat the laning phase because of his rake and just the ability to quick shove and then run away. So Zed probably will pop up. I expect lots of people to overreact to this. They'll play him again. They'll say that the missile speed will feel really good, but he's still going to feel like the same champion in the mid and later stages of the game, even if his laning phase is going to be very bolstered by this, and his early to mid transition will be bolstered by this. Runes. Predator is still weaker than expected, so we're continuing our fine-tuning, giving it some boost to help it compete with other keystones. Damage growth, 30 to 90, 1 to 18, to 40 to 120, 1 to 18, that's big. Cooldown, 100 to 70 to 90 to... Wow, I was really not expecting this. This is getting into scary territory with the 60 seconds. I mean, Predator, I feel like Predator is situationally good on champions, and people are taking it in incorrect spots and then maybe just not utilizing it. I'm very surprised to see Riot just immediately buffing it, but I can't say that I am against it by any means. I think that's obviously really good because it's a very cool rune that requires people to stay honest inside of the game. Summoner spells Ghost. Our changes to Ghost in 2012 ended up being a small nerf with its increased cooldown, so we're following up with a buff to speedily move it in the right direction. 20 to 40% to 24 to 48% bonus movement speed. So you end up getting almost, or you get a little bit less than Boots Tier 1 extra added into the level, the rank 1, and then you get a little bit more in the later stages of the game. That's basically how it should be viewed. I still don't think that it's going to make Ghost rise to power, because a lot of the champions that are utilizing Ghost and trying to make it rise to power, it's very good for spellbook users, but I think that there's just other summoners are just way too valuable to pass up. Most notably is going to either just be heal for the utility. Exhaust, obviously, in some situations is really, really, really good. And then in addition to that, teleport is just, you can't underappreciate teleport. Obviously, Ghost is a strong spell, but is it worth taking that over summoner spells is the obvious argument. And champions like Victor, who would utilize it very, very well, or even Cassiopeia, another champion that would utilize it very well, they're probably preferring other runes just because of the way that their laning phases actually play out. Now, if they have Spellbook, it's a little bit different. Same goes for Orianna. For Darius and champions up in top lane that actually use Ghost, I guess Tryndamere maybe falls into that school of thought. For Singed, these are very big buffs, and you have to look at it that way. Conqueror Clash. We're running a special one-weekend Clash tournament, July 11th to 12th. Extra prizes with premium ticket entries and a streamlined VP reward track. Full details here. So, like I said at the very beginning of the patch rundown, the 1014 solo queue and Clash tier list, so will be available on Patreon. And Michaela, yes, that Michaela, Tyler One's girlfriend, has begun helping me as my manager, so she's going to be helping, coordinating like everything and making stuff better and more visually pleasing and everything like that. So that's going to be really good. That will probably be up a day after this video goes live, because consulting with people about changes and then getting the graphics done and then posting it. So you can do that if you want. The tiers are separated, unlike the solo queue tier list for you and your friends, because I do it on the assumption that you won't all be exactly the same MMR, and so some of the tiers are lumped in, and then champion suggestions and whatnot. Bug fixes, quality of life changes, not going to go over these. Upcoming skins and chromas. Okay, before I get to this, which is the most important patch of, or most important point of the patch rundown, let's recap really quick for competitive and solo queue changes. Alistar change, very big for solo queue, less so for competitive. Ezreal change, very, very, very big for competitive, but still going to make Ezreal balanced. He's just going to have to be a little bit more honest. For solo queue, it's obviously going to be a pretty big change overall, and it should be stated as such. I could imagine Ezreal lose. I could actually imagine his win rate getting hit more than 1 or 2%, even, maybe, with this kind of a change. As weird as that, well, maybe more than 1, maybe 2 is a bit extreme. I have to get better at trying to gauge those things as the threads pop up on Reddit and stuff, and then really trying to think about like what is causing that. I think that's very interesting. Karthus change is massive, super big for competitive, super big for solo queue. If you really know what you're doing on Karthus, can't be understated. Kha'Zix change doesn't really do a whole lot for competitive, does a massive amount for solo queue. Pike change, very good for both solo queue and competitive. Very big nerf to mid lane Pike, but overall just very good nonetheless. So really like what they did there. Riven change is nice for competitive, but more so a lot better for solo queue, and so it has to be stated as that. Sejuani change is the biggest placebo one of the entire patch. Trundle Nerf is sad, because I think that Trundle is actually not a very good champion. Varus change is very balanced, very big for solo queue. I think less so for competitive, because Varus is going to be able to coast into the later stages where you want Varus to come online, and so for solo queue it should be a lot bigger than for competitive. Volibear change, I think, is very fair. I'm so surprised about it. Wukong change doesn't really do anything. Zed change, very big for solo queue, less so for competitive. Predator change, massive for competitive, massive also for solo queue, and so I think that's really nice. Ghost change, very big for solo queue, less so for competitive, because the champions that I listed are not found as much, and that's pretty much it. Okay, let's get into the skins here. So we're gonna open all of these up, and then we are going to go through them. Very poggers. Alright, so Conqueror and Nautilus. So this actually just makes me immediately think, like, who fed Sector? That is my initial first thought here. If you don't know who Sector is and you're on a boomer like me, then you can just search Sector Mortal Kombat or something, because that is the first thing and the only thing that actually pops into my mind, is that he's had a little bit too much to eat and he found his way into the bakery. Overall, I can't imagine picking this skin over some of Nautilus's other skins. It just sort of, I don't even know. It also looks like maybe Groudon got a metal suit or something. I don't know, man. Not a good look. This Shaco skin looks sort of like the other splash art that is not coming to my mind right away. He obviously looks sinister and evil, but I also feel like the splash art, the colors, everything that they're trying to do, it reminds me of the Joker from the S Squad, if you guys know what I'm talking about, Jared Leto's Joker. And that Joker is just, it seems like it's trying too hard. And that's my impression of this Shaco skin. It just seems like it's trying too hard. The colors don't really feel like they match his theme at all. It just feels very out of place. I think that his dagger here looks really cool. I think that his clothes, his getup right here is okay, but I just feel like the pink, the purple, I think the blush that he has or whatever is going on, it doesn't rub me right. He feels like he would be like the first villain in a antagonist series to go. Like if this was the Cell Saga or something, this guy's like Android 20. He's going out first. Doesn't make any sense. It's just, yeah, I don't know. Arcanus Oh. Okay, well, this is very cute. I do not know why they have the Frankenstein thing going on here. And this is a nice Kog'Maw skin. I have to see how it actually looks inside of game, because honestly, this just looks like maybe this is like the first iteration of Fizz before Fizz kept evolving over time. I don't really know. Maybe this is what Fizz came from. This is when Fizz first crawled out of the ocean or the water or whatever and was just walking around on all fours or something. That's all I can think of right now. What is going on? This is Fizz. I'm not sure what's going on here. It doesn't look like there's any Easter eggs in his eyeballs, so not going to be going anything there. Arcana Zoe looks really cool. Arcana Zoe it feels like a mini mage. It feels like a Toon Mage. You guys ever see the Toon Dark Magician, or I don't remember what it was. It was like Spellcaster Knight or something from Yu-Gi-Oh! When they had like the chess pieces and stuff. This just feels like Toon Dark Magician Girl, or it feels like a female version of that Spellcaster Knight or Spellmaster Knight, whatever it is. The little white guy that levels up, the swordsman. I don't know what exactly his name is, but I think the skin's really cool. And then obviously Prestige Edition is what you gotta really get. So if you're a Zoe player and you're trying to lose LP right out the gate, getting this skin without having researched or played her or done anything with her in the last year, make sure to get this skin so that at least when you lose, you can lose in fashion. Your opponents will beat you and think, man, that guy still has the Prestige Edition skin. And you know what you can think to yourself? You might have lost 17, 18, 19, 20, 25 LP even because you got boosted. That's a-okay, because at least you have the Prestige Zoe skin, and you can feel good about that. And I like all of the colors. I think it does look very royal. I think that it really encapsulates what you would sort of imagine a Prestige skin to do. So I don't know what the in-game appearance is. I know that there was a lot of complaints. I don't like that they don't have her hair, because I feel like her hair is very iconic, and I don't think that this is her hair. I feel like it's something that's holding in her hair, and it's very magical, but I think it's really good. This is one of my favorite class arts in the entire game that I've looked at. Infernal Vel'Koz. I feel like Ragnaros' head got cut off, and this is some version of like Darth Sidious reborn or something. You know when Sidious in the final... Okay, spoilers, by the way. You know when... spoilers, okay? Last Star Wars movie, spoilers. Okay, mute right now. You know when Senator or Palpatine or whatever like came in and he was like chained to all of those things that were like keeping him alive? It looks like someone did this to Ragnaros in Warcraft. That is exactly what's going on here. The Lord of the Ring eye just seems like it's very upset, and for some reason it mated with Shenron from Dragon Ball, and now it's coming back with a little bit of a vengeance. Is this supposed to be his mouth? Like, why do you even have a mouth when you look like this? It just doesn't even make... What are you doing, you know? But, like, honestly, where does he get this iron for his arms? Like, who works on this? This is taking plastic surgery to new extremes. Infernal Karthus. Now, this looks really cool, and that looks like Kennen at the bottom right. Is it the same splash art? It is the same splash art. Okay. So, Kennen was identifiable, but in a way that makes him look really cool. And this Karthus looks like it would be some sort of like an elite mob and like a WoW instance or something. Although I guess maybe he could be a boss character or something. I think the skin looks really cool. I've seen the skin, I believe, in game. I've seen it, the model for it in game, and I think that this probably is the best Karthus skin now. The reason that the Arthas Menethil Karthus is not a very good skin is because it has the range indicator on Q, so it actually helps out your opponents. And so I think that while that skin is really cool, it's just not very good to use. And then some of the other Karthus skins, like Statue of Liberty Karthus and whatnot, I don't think are super good. Grim Reaper, not super good. Obviously, Pentakill Karthus, really bad, in my opinion. This skin looks like a really cool skin that you can pick Karthus and feel good, because it actually feels like a genuine non-Karthus baseline skin, whereas all the other Karthus skins sort of like stay in line except Statue of Liberty. And the Kennen skin is obviously really cool, but Blood Moon Kennen is just so cute, so how do you really go against Blood Moon Kennen? Maybe this really does just look way better than like Infernal Amumu in game, and everything's going to be a-okay. The thing I'm wondering here is, with all of these skins, which one gets the League Partner Program Chroma? Because I got to be giving those skin codes out, you know what I'm saying? Yeah, look at this. I mean, this actually just looks like Ragnaros found a way to transform into human form, and then everything would just be a-okay. So, really good. Skins are cool. I hope you guys enjoy it. And that is going to be it. So, we can hope, I believe Riot made a post that there's going to be some big patch in August. So, that's cool. That's very cool. You can also check out the Lilia First Impressions video. It seems like she is going to be a tank mage jungler, unless her ratios are bonkers, but from what I've heard so far is that her cooldowns are intense, except for her Q, She has Leandries on her passive, so, you know, I've been chilling a little bit to Riot. Not a big deal. Not a big deal. Get yours today, 3,100 gold in the shop. Throw away the book, maybe burn it. Don't ever pick that up. You end up picking that up, you're going to end up looking, you know, honestly, it's not a good look. All right, I will see you guys all later.